More than 50 years after the first race to the moon, a brand new competition is rising. The United States may have been the first nation to place human footprints on the lunar surface, but this time, momentum is shifting fast. And based on everything unfolding right now, China may actually be on track to reach the moon before anyone else. Here's exactly how they could do it. China is preparing to take one of its biggest steps yet toward the lunar surface, gearing up for what will become its most advanced robotic moon mission to date. And unlike earlier missions, this one brings several international partners along for the ride. The Chang'e 7 mission, officially approved in September 2022, is scheduled to launch in 2026. The spacecraft, weighing roughly 8,200 kilograms, represents the next evolution of China's steadily expanding lunar exploration program. While earlier Chang'e missions focused on landers or sample return hardware, Chang'e 7 removes the sample return system in favor of a larger, more capable collection of scientific instruments designed for deep lunar analysis. Like China's previous 2 lunar missions, Chang'e 7 will ride to space atop a Long March 5 rocket from the Wenchang coastal launch site, with teams currently targeting an August 2026 liftoff. A few days after launch, the spacecraft will enter an orbit, passing over both lunar poles. This trajectory allows it to scout potential landing sites near the moon's south pole, a region of massive scientific interest because of its suspected water ice reserves. According to details submitted to the United Nations Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space, the preferred landing area is a sunlit ridge near Shackleton Crater at 123.4 degrees east, 88.88 degrees south, with several backup zones nearby. The exact landing date will depend on illumination patterns and surface conditions. Engineers expect to spend up to 2 months studying local lighting and terrain before selecting the safest moment to descend. Once the spacecraft approaches the moon, its upgraded landing software, an advanced version of the system used on Chang'e 3, 4, 5, and 6, will automatically detect hazards and shift the lander to safer ground if needed. After touchdown, more than a dozen scientific instruments will begin investigating the terrain, the environment, and the moon's interior and surface makeup. The mission's science priorities include understanding the south polar environment, searching for water ice, studying the moon's structure and thermal behavior, and even monitoring Earth's magnetotail and plasmasphere from the lunar surface. To tackle these goals, the mission includes an orbiter, a lander, a rover, and a small hopper designed to make short flights into permanently shadowed craters. These dark craters never see sunlight and may contain ice deposits untouched for billions of years. The hopper carries a single tool, the Lunar Soil Water Molecule Analyzer, built to directly probe icy soils inside these frozen regions. In a noteworthy twist, Chang'e 7 will also fly a U.S. scientific contribution. Through a partnership between the International Lunar Observatory Association and the University of Hong Kong's Laboratory for Space Research, a wide-field optical telescope will be mounted on the lander. Its mission: capture rare views of the Milky Way and galactic center from the lunar surface. Altogether, Chang'e 7 marks a major milestone in China's lunar program, blending advanced technology, international cooperation, and an ambitious scientific agenda focused on one of the moon's most strategically important regions. But Chang'e 7 is only one piece of a far larger vision. On October 30th, 2025, a spokesperson for China's crewed space program confirmed that the nation remains on track to land astronauts on the lunar surface by 2030. China's modern lunar efforts began in 2004 with 3 goals: orbit the moon, land on it, and bring samples back to Earth. All 3 objectives were completed between 2007 and 2020 across 5 Chang'e missions. Chang'e 3 achieved China's first soft landing. Chang'e 4 became the first mission in history to land on the far side of the moon, and Chang'e 5 successfully delivered lunar samples back to Earth. But a human mission requires much more. It demands careful planning, state-of-the-art hardware, major funding, and a large team of engineers. China has steadily built up its human spaceflight experience, starting with its first crewed mission, then sending 2 astronauts, and eventually performing missions with 3 crew members, including the nation's first spacewalk. To send astronauts to the moon, China needs a rocket powerful enough to propel both a crew spacecraft and a lunar lander into lunar orbit. At present, China's strongest rocket is the Long March 5, capable of sending 8 to 9 tons toward the moon, similar to Europe's Ariane rockets and America's Atlas V and Vulcan. But rockets in this class simply cannot lift the mass needed for a human landing. To solve this, China is developing a much larger booster, the Long March 10. Designed by the China Academy of Launch Vehicle Technology, the Long March 10 will reportedly deliver about 27 tons to lunar orbit, placing it in the same league as NASA's Space Launch System. It shares the same core diameter and several engines with the Long March 5, allowing engineers to build on proven technology and accelerate development. If everything stays on schedule, the Long March 10 could debut as early as 2027. For China's lunar landing plan, 2 Long March 10 launches are required, one carrying the astronauts and one carrying the lunar lander. China's rockets already have a strong track record. According to China Daily, Long March vehicles maintain a success rate near 97%. That's slightly below SpaceX's Falcon 9, around 99.46%, but still remarkably reliable, enabling China to set and meet long-term spaceflight goals. In August 2025, China completed a ground test of the latest Long March 10 variant, marking another step toward its first crewed lunar mission. For the landing itself, astronauts will travel in the next-generation Chang'e crew capsule. This new spacecraft will replace the long-serving Shenzhou vehicles used for all past crewed missions. Chang'e is made of 2 modules, a crew module for astronauts and a service module for power, propulsion, and life support. Thanks to this modular design, Chang'e can be adapted for different mission types. 2 early versions will be built, one for crew transport to the Tiangong space station and one for deep space missions to the moon. The crew module will support up to 6 astronauts, doubling Shenzhou's capacity. The first uncrewed test flight is planned for next year. For the lunar landing, Chang'e will dock with the separate lander, Lanyu. Named after a poem by Mao Zedong, Lanyu means embracing the moon. Lanyu consists of a landing stage and a propulsion stage. The propulsion stage supplies fuel for braking and detaches shortly before landing. The lander will weigh nearly 26 tons and carry 2 astronauts to the surface. China has been testing lander components since 2024, with robotic prototypes scheduled for 2027 and 2028. An uncrewed mission involving both Chang'e and Lanyu is planned for 2028 or 2029, ahead of the first crewed landing attempt in 2030. In 2024, China revealed the lunar EVA suits astronauts will wear on the moon. These red and white suits are engineered for the moon's extreme temperatures, radiation, and sharp dust, but still offer enough flexibility for surface tasks. They include built-in cameras, a chest operations panel, and a glare-reducing visor. Their unveiling gained global attention. Elon Musk shared footage of the suits on X and added commentary, while Chinese media celebrated the milestone and emphasized how lunar suits differ from orbital EVA suits used aboard Tiangong. Musk also used the moment to criticize the United States, arguing that FAA regulations were slowing down America's space progress. His comments suggested that China is moving quickly while the U.S. is facing bureaucratic delays. In the coming years, China plans 3 more Chang'e missions to prepare for a long-term lunar presence, the construction of a research base near the South Pole. This future outpost is called the International Lunar Research Station, ILRS. Originally a joint China-Russia project, it was designed to be open to other countries. In 2021, the 2 nations signed cooperation agreements and presented their roadmap at a space conference in St. Petersburg before submitting it to the United Nations. The ILRS was initially planned for construction between 2030 and 2035 through 5 joint missions. But after Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, the project experienced serious delays and lost international support. Meanwhile, the United States is progressing with its own lunar ambitions. After Apollo ended in 1972, NASA shifted to low Earth orbit, developing the Space Shuttle and later the International Space Station. In 2017, NASA began the Artemis program to return humans to the Moon. Artemis I launched in 2022, testing the SLS rocket and Orion spacecraft. Artemis II will fly astronauts around the Moon. Artemis III aims to land astronauts at the lunar South Pole. By returning to the Moon, the U.S. hopes to strengthen its leadership in deep space exploration, a field increasingly seen as a direct competition with China. But even with America aiming high, it's becoming harder to ignore how steady, organized, and consistent China's lunar progress has become. China has spent decades building its space program with long-term strategy and reliable funding. In 2024, China invested around $19 billion into its national space program, far lower than the U.S., which spent about $60 billion more. But China's projects typically face fewer political disruptions and benefit from stable, multi-year planning. As a result, many experts now believe a new lunar race is underway. China and the United States are both investing heavily to establish a long-term crewed research station on the Moon. But unlike the race of the 1960s, this new one isn't about planting a flag and leaving. It's about building a lasting presence, a permanent foothold on the Moon that can serve as a launching point for future missions deeper into the solar system. Whichever nation achieves that first could shape the future of space exploration for decades.